Morning. It is a sunny, clear Sunday, and I've driven up the Whipsaw Creek Forest Service Road with Maggie right over there. She's never been here before, so she's exploring the surroundings. And the plan today is we're gonna hike up to Hope Pass, and then we are going to Kettle Mountain from there. From the pass you can climb up to the mountain. And then we're going to loop around and come back down to where we parked the truck. So it should be 5 to 6 hours kind of thing. And the little dog is looking forward to it for sure. I am too. But it's 10:30, so it's a good time to get started. Come on, Maggie. Nearly at Hope Pass, just past the provincial park boundary. So this trail is now currently running through Manning Park, and where I had come from is just kind of like open rangeland. Hey, come on. Where we had come from is just open range. Maggie's keeping up pretty well, considering she has very short legs. Corgis. Anyhow, we're here. This is Hope Pass. We've arrived already. This is what it looks like. Quite often, when you get a low spot between two hills, you'll get an area like that and like that, where snow will collect in the winter and form a pond, and then often over the course of the summer season, particularly if it's dry, the pond will eventually dry up, and it just leaves a little depression in the ground with grass growing in it. And you can see there was an old shoreline right there. Maggie's very excited to get a little bit further. We're heading to a spot called Marmot City. Oh, here's a sign marker. Hope Pass, elevation 1839 meters. Oh, this is a replacement for the old sign, because the old sign listed it as over 2,000 meters, and that was incorrect. So they've clearly replaced this, although not recently. It's been a few years since I was here. But this is Hope Pass. It's not super scenic by itself. It's more of a gateway because there's several different trails you can take from here. And I'm going to take one of those trails up to Kettle Mountain. Now from here you could also go down the Skayest River Trail, and then you would wind up at Cayuse Flats in Manning, where I've parked there before and walked that trail. Or you could go from here to Nickelman Lake. Kind of a long way to get there, but it will definitely get you there. It's better if you have a drop off and a pickup, but if you don't, you can do it as an out and back. But I'm going to take the trail to Kettle Mountain today. It cuts off from here and goes uphill to my right for about 45 minutes or so. But we're going to have lunch first. So there's a campsite just up here called the Marmot City Camp, and we're going to sit there and have lunch. Me and Maggie. So this meadow is called Marmot City, largely because in the rocks that rim the edge of it, there's marmots that live there, all along through there. And there's a campsite right down there with a food cache, and then beyond that, kind of around the corner, there's a pit toilet and a fire ring also. There's space here for lots of tents. There's nobody camping here at the moment, although I did meet 3 people that had camped here last night. Normally in the spring and early summer this is quite swampy here because there's a creek that runs through here, and then you can see some of the swamp heather and things like that that grow there, swamp willows. But it's dry right now. It's been a dry year, and it is early August, so I mean that only makes sense. The grass is starting to turn brown due to lack of water, and I think probably in a month or so this will be a nice golden color. But it's very pretty right now. So this is the top of Kettle Mountain. I wouldn't really call it a summit because I don't think there's a kind of one spot that's delineated as a summit, and it's all kind of semi-open and rolling like this. Really pretty spot. There's an old cabin up here, which we will see shortly. When I say old, I mean probably 100 years old, and in not very good repair anymore. But this trail that I'm walking on with Maggie right there is actually the Dewdney Trail. Was designed and built by a royal engineer by the name of Edgar Dewdney, and it was one of the trails he built. This one bears his name, and it runs between Hope and Princeton. And of course that's where I'm at now, between Hope and Princeton. So I'm actually fairly close to Princeton. If you look across this little meadow, there's water in the bottom here. You can see a road on the other side that traverses that way. And that's what I'm aiming for, but to get there I have to go this way to do it. And because straight across this meadow is swampy. And who likes walking in the swamp? Not this guy. So I came from that direction, and I said it was swampy through the bottom. There's actually a little pond there, so I couldn't see it from the other side. There was something in my way. But I walked all the way around it that way, and then come in behind there and up the trail. But if we had cut straight across, we would have cut right through that pond, and that is not a good look. I don't like the wet feet, so we did the smart thing, stayed on the trail and came around it. So we're nearly at a place called Dick's Cabin. It was actually built by a man named Richard Holding, and he is buried just there. His cabin is just beyond these trees right there, and snowmobilers use it in the winter time as a stopover point when they come skidooing up here. This is fairly old, and it's had some remedial work done on it years ago, but it's a pretty spot. Like, he picked a really nice spot. There's a pond just down there, and then there's another one behind the cabin. So pretty well year-round fresh water, and it's got tall trees around it now. I don't know what it had 100 years ago, but yeah, despite being on the top of the plateau here, it would have been sheltered somewhat from the north and west winds, but this is Dick's cabin. So in the winter time, the snow gets, well, you measure it in feet. It gets quite deep, and that's what that little cupola is on top there. It's the winter entryway. You can enter and go down in. This is the summer entryway, but it's very small, suitable for one person, I think, but quite small. So Maggie and I made it back to the truck, and it's just before 3 o'clock, so what, 4.5 hours, something like that, to do that loop. 4 3/4. Just changing out my shoes, wrapping up a few things, killing some flies, you know, the usual end of trip stuff. And got a bit of a drive to go home because this is quite a long ways, but very nice up here today. Very quiet. I only met 3 people, and they were all together, so for most of the day we saw nobody. Just hanging out with my dog. Good trip.